right, perfect. All right. So you guys may know a little bit about it, but what we're going to focus on today is what you may not know and some of the science and ways to use it. Red light therapy has been a staple of the functional medicine world for a while. And honestly, when I first saw it before I was into this, whole functional medicine thing in my conventional world, I thought, boy, how can a light bulb help, right? Like, how can light help you? But then don't you feel better when you're out in the sun, right? I mean, vitamin D is a whole vitamin based on light therapy. And we're all wearing sunscreens and long sleeves and all this stuff now, and we're all vitamin D deficient and all out of balance. So, there's definitely something to light therapy, and in particularly red light, the science is actually pretty fascinating. So this is the overview of what we're going to touch base on today. So what is red light therapy, or RLT, as I will abbreviate it? How does it work? What are the key benefits? How do we differentiate this from other therapies, right? Because there's blue light, as you guys may know. There's infrared, there's UV light, so all these other things that are available in the light therapy universe. Practical tips for red light therapy, and then of course we'll have tons of time for questions afterwards. So we'll start, as I mentioned, with what is red light therapy? So RLT is a non-invasive treatment that uses specific wavelengths of red and near infrared light to stimulate processes at a cellular level. So you'll remember a wave, right, is this up and down, and it has a certain wavelength, how long one cycle is, and then the frequency is how many times per second you get a wave, right? So that's just basic physics that you may or may not remember, but you don't need to. And so what we're doing then is specifically looking at a certain type of light. And why red light? Well, it penetrates the skin and is actually absorbed by mitochondria. And as we'll talk about, or as we've talked about before, mitochondria are key. They are what are producing the energy in our body, right? That is ATP, adenosine triphosphate, the energy molecule. So red light can actually promote the creation of ATP, as we'll talk about here in a moment, but it can also actually help with other enzymes that promote cell repair and regeneration. So there's a lot behind this and a lot of good things. So this is just really briefly red light and mitochondrial ATP production. So in the bottom right-hand corner, you see that little sausage-looking thing. That is, a cartoon of what a mitochondria looks like. And we'll talk about it a little bit kind of in depth, and we've talked about it before, but through these complexes 1, 2, 3, cytochrome C, 4, that's not IV, but that's complex 4. You get these electrons that kind of shift over and then recycle what's called ADP, adenosine diphosphate, to adenosine triphosphate, ATP, which is the molecule. I'm not a big tattoo guy, folks, but if I were to ever get a tattoo, it would be of a mitochondria. I think these things are so freaking cool. So cytochrome C, which is, if you look in the complex here, it's that fourth in the cycle where the light is coming from, is activated by red light or near infrared wavelengths. And so this is the gas pedal for energy creation in this electron transport chain. So if you're able to modulate cytochrome C, you're able to increase ATP production. My daughters right now are doing chemistry, and they're just learning about chemical reactions, and we talk about a rate limiting step, right? So where in the chain of events that happen is there a pause or a break? Well, that's where we're at with cytochrome C. If we can activate it, then you're just going to create more ATP. So at a very high level, photobiomodulation, which is using these light therapies, you can see in the left panel here the different degrees of depth penetration of red light. So you can see that kind of cutout of a cross section of skin. Denise, did you have a question?
Is there a visual that's supposed to be going along with this?
Oh, can you guys not see my screen?
No.
In the top of your Zoom, is there a Sanjay Bojraj screen tab?
Right up there.
Oh. Oh, okay.
Got it?
Got
We
it.
got it.
All right, perfect. All right, yeah, that probably makes a lot more sense when you can actually see the slide. So everybody can see the slide now. Thumbs up, Sal and Jane, and I know Riley's can see it now. Good. Okay. So here we go. So in that bottom left or bottom right, just to kind of review, that's the mitochondria. You see that there, Denise? And then where the little red arrow is pointing is that cytochrome C. On the left side of the screen here, you see the cross section: epidermis, dermis, hypodermis, muscle. So epidermis is at the top, muscle is at the bottom, and then there's different depths of penetration. And so we see that blue light does not really penetrate. It has a very short wavelength, so or a high frequency, so it doesn't kind of penetrate deep. Infrared has a longer wavelength, and so as a result, it's able to penetrate much deeper. So this will modulate some of the therapies and some of the options as to why we use things. And you can see in the middle top panel here, cytochrome C activation, you get these two peaks of activity at 680 nanometers. That's a measure of the length of the wavelength. And then at 810, those are the two frequencies of light, or wavelengths rather, I should say, of light, that most activate cytochrome P or the cytochrome C system. So those are the wavelengths that we'll focus on. But then as you see kind of benefits of photomodulation, lowers glucose, some evidence that it may improve child autism score. For those of us who care about this, which is probably more everybody, but hair regrowth from male pattern baldness, which is good, but women can get male pattern baldness. All that simply means is that it's mediated by an imbalance of testosterone and estrogen. Um, Injury prevention before and after exercise, tooth regeneration, wound healing. We'll get into some of these things as we go along. So where did red light therapy come from? Well, NASA originally developed red light therapy in the 90s for plant growth. They're trying to figure out how can we grow food in space. But then they later found it to help aid in wound healing for astronauts. And now it's kind of widely used in sports medicine, derm, med spa type places, but also at-home wellness devices. So how many of you guys, does anybody have a red light device at home already? Jane, I expected your hand to go up for sure. But they are, widely available. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them, at Costco and different places. In fact, at Costco, I think they have like a hair cap thing that you can wear to help you grow hair. So they come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, and we'll talk about what to look for in a consumer device. So when we look at the types of light used, the shorter wavelengths of red light primarily affect skin, collagen production, and surface level healing, right? And so that, if you remember from that diagram, deals with how much depth you're able to penetrate into the skin. Near infrared, which is a longer wavelength, penetrates deeper into tissues. So you can aid in muscle recovery, joint pain relief, and other neurologic benefits, believe it or not, including brain benefits from near infrared light. So this is a little bit more of an in-depth look, in-depth kind of tongue-in-cheek, at the different levels of wavelength. And when you buy, if you buy, you don't have to buy one, but if you were to go out and buy a red light therapy device, these are the things that you'd want to look for. What are the wavelengths? What's the primary benefit? And why do you need it, right? So if you're looking for more kind of skin surface level things, wrinkles, scars, acne, eczema, the 630 nanometer wavelength is going to be really helpful for that. If you're looking for energy and inflammation reduction, 660. If you're looking for brain and nervous system support, so cognitive function, depression, traumatic brain injury, now we're getting into that near infrared part of the spectrum. So remember, infrared or red is 600 to about 700. Infrared will be 700 to 1,000 or thereabouts. So 800 and beyond is what we're looking for deeper therapies. So 810 for function and depression, traumatic brain injury, 850 deep tissue and joint repair. So arthritis, muscle pain, even thyroid function has been shown to have been helped with 850 nanometer. And then 940 really then talks to circulation and lymphatic health. One of the things that as we'll talk about here in a moment, that red light therapy does is it stimulates the release of nitric oxide. Nitric oxide, as we've talked about before, is a vasodilator, so it opens up our blood vessels. So this helps with circulation, detoxification, systemic inflammation. So this is a little bit more of the sciencey slide of that mitochondrial membrane, but red light therapy at its base stimulates cytochrome C oxidase to enhance mitochondrial function and ATP production. So cytochrome, the name of these complexes, actually comes from the wavelengths of light that they absorb. That's how these were originally described. So we're kind of getting right in pocket or getting into the natural frequency with the wavelength of red light for cytochrome C oxidase. As I just mentioned, a benefit to this is that it displaces nitric oxide in a good way. So nitric oxide has a lot of healing benefits. It stimulates anti-inflammation. It's a vasodilator in its native form. So it helps to restore mitochondrial respiration, meaning oxygenation, and reduces that oxidative stress. Remember, oxidative stress is bad. Nitric oxide, not no, like no, this doesn't do this. NO is nitric oxide there in all caps, promotes vessel dilation. So again, cardiovascular benefit. And as I mentioned several times, triggers these antioxidant and anti-inflammatory pathways, including superoxide dismutase, or SOD for short. You may see that, and glutathione, which I think we've talked about before as this kind of master antioxidant molecule. So it really has a lot of benefit. And unlike UV light, red light therapy does not cause skin damage, skin aging, or DNA damage. Unlike infrared saunas, it does not generate heat, so it's more accessible for daily use. And unlike blue therapy, we'll talk about each of these specifically later on, but it doesn't target bacterial growth, but it rather focuses on cellular energy and inflammation reduction. So it does a lot of good things with minimal bad things, right? So how does it work? So ultimately, we talked about cytochrome C oxidase, but it also activates genes inside the body like NRF2. NRF2 is the master antioxidant and inflammatory gene. So all of these things that we talk about when we talk about eating certain vegetables or cold plunges or maintaining your stress and not stressing out, those are all things that modulate this NRF2 pathway, which is the master anti-inflammatory or cool down pathway in the body. Red light therapy also stimulates stem cell production, and that's why it works in wound healing. So it promotes cellular repair and helps aid in tissue regeneration as we're trying to heal as well. And it's just not used a lot in conventional medication or in conventional medicine. Red light therapy also is thought to improve cognitive function, memory retention, and mood stabilization. Well, how might that be? Well, when you're penetrating deep into the brain is one of the highest users of ATP in the body. Brain, heart, and actually liver are the three big ones. So as you're as you have a very energy hungry organ, such as the brain, and now you're stimulating it to create more energy, well, things just kind of work in balance, right? So there are some papers that say that there's potential therapeutic effects in things like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and traumatic brain injury. And the mechanism of action is probably improving the mitochondrial function, decreasing inflammation, the neuroinflammation in the brain that leads to some of these conditions. In terms of skin health, I mentioned how it helps with wrinkles at that shorter wavelengths, supports collagen production, helps with acne, helps with scar healing. From the pain and inflammation standpoint, aids in muscle soreness, joint pain, and injury at those longer kind of near infrared therapies that get penetration into there. As you're supporting mitochondria, you're supporting metabolic function. So it may help regulate blood sugar, stimulate and support thyroid function, and finally improve circadian rhythms, reduces stress and anxiety, which helps our sleep and mental well-being. A couple of conditions specifically that are talked about with red light therapy. Restless leg syndrome. I don't know how many of you have experienced that or know somebody that does, but it is crazy. So restless leg syndrome and near infrared light have been shown, or near infrared light, I should say, has been shown to help modulate some of the movement associated with restless leg syndrome. Actually, the best thing to do for restless leg, that's most tried and true and proven, is exercise. So get out there and walk, but near infrared and something we'll talk about kind of in a future session, pulsed electromagnetic field, have actually been shown to help in restless leg syndrome. For angiogenesis, so this is now creating new blood pressure, new blood vessels. Low-level light therapy has been shown to improve that, as well as ischemic wound healing. So what is ischemic wound healing? Well, if anyone has ever experienced, hopefully none of you, but you've known someone who's had a diabetic foot ulcer, what happens is the small microvessels that supply the foot actually get plugged up because they're damaged from the circulating glucose and inflammation and whatnot. So the stream kind of dries up and those blood vessels stop working correctly. And then as a result, you've got an area of skin that's not getting any blood flow, and then it starts to die off, right? That's just kind of what's going to happen biologically. As an interventional cardiologist, oftentimes I'd go into the small, like almost microscopic 1 millimeter blood vessels below the knee and just balloon them open for folks to just try to get some circulation down there, hoping that that extra flow would increase blood flow and help heal these wounds. But light therapy can actually cause these blood vessels to form again, angiogenesis. So it's actually pretty impressive and is sometimes used in like diabetic therapies. So as I mentioned, differentiating from other therapies like infrared sauna. So IR saunas use a broad spectrum of infrared light, and they really try to heat the body to induce sweating. And that sweating promotes detoxification, relaxation. You're getting rid of a lot of things. I think we've talked about sauna. Have we talked, Jane? You've been kind of the longest with me here. I think we've done a sauna talk before. It was a while ago. If not, we can resurrect that one. But it's sauna is a great way to detox. Red light therapy, in distinction to IR though, uses targeted wavelengths to penetrate the skin to stimulate other function without excessive heat. So there is no heat generation. While both enhance circulation recovery, specifically red light supports the mitochondria, which makes it more suitable for energy and cellular repair. Ultraviolet light therapy. So UV is commonly used in like dermatologist's office for eczema, psoriasis. UV, as I mentioned at the top of the talk, also helps with vitamin D activation in our body, right? The problem with ultraviolet light, as all of us Californians know, it can damage DNA and increase skin cancer risk, right? That's why we all have to wear hats and sunscreen, and you have to go and get these things frozen off of you when you go to the dermatologist. Well, red light, because we're dealing with a lower energy wavelength of light, does not damage DNA. So it's safer for long-term skin health and also improves collagen production. So in fact, when you see UV kind of causing skin damage, red light therapy actually is therapeutic to skin. And as I mentioned, improves wound healing, reduces inflammation, and with that collagen production, promotes skin elasticity. So if you have those, the back of the hands when you pinch and they just kind of stay pinched up, that's that number one is it could be from dehydration, but number two, it can be from a decrease in collagen. The red light will actually help make your skin a little bit more elastic again. Blue light therapy. So blue light is actually something that's used quite frequently, again, in dermatology for acne treatment, but can also help with wounds and healing anywhere, particularly diabetic foot wounds. And how does that work? Well, it kills bacteria on the skin surface. I actually love the concept of blue light therapy because you are addressing the bad skin flora without antibiotics, and so you don't have to worry as much about antibiotic resistance. And I think it's a tool that we need to kind of lean into much more than we do otherwise. It's just not well known in the conventional universe. So in distinction, how is red light different than blue light? Well, red light, if you remember from that first diagram, penetrates deeper into the skin, promoting wound healing, reducing inflammation, enhancing skin rejuvenation. And that combination of red and blue light can be more effective for acne treatment than blue light alone, because for those of you who aren't aware, there are certain bacteria, Propionus actinides, that are associated with acne. So the blue light can help kill the bacteria. The red light can help with the skin regeneration, and it's actually a good combination therapy for acne. And then near infrared. So most of the devices that are commercially available, you want to have both red and near infrared. But red light therapy alone is ideal for surface level treatments. Near infrared penetrates deeper into the body, making it effective for muscle recovery, joint pain, and cognitive function. Near infrared can cross the blood-brain barrier, as I mentioned, so it offers potential benefits for brain health. So if you're looking for a red light therapy device, you want to make sure that you're getting both red and near infrared. And so some of these super cheap kind of fly-by-night devices may likely only offer the red light therapy without the benefit of the near infrared spectrum as well. So what to look for when you are shopping for a red light therapy device? So you want to get something that has dual wavelengths. So again, in that kind of 600 as well as 800 range. And I'll share the slides, but refer back to that table. And specific conditions may benefit from precise wavelengths. Power output and treatment time. So you want to kind of look into how long are you going to need the device. So that's the manufacturer guidelines. If it's something that you need to lay down in, like this IR blanket for 5 minutes, that's going to be probably something you're going to use a lot more than something that has lower power output that says you need to be in there for 2 hours, right? So things being what they are, you want to make sure that you're getting an efficient therapy, but you don't want to put yourself in a frying pan either, right? So we'll have to look at the power. And then safety considerations, ensure that the device is FDA approved. There are some unregulated products, so these super cheap things, can kind of make their way in from overseas. So you want to make sure that the device that you're buying is from a good manufacturer. Practical tips as you're doing this frequency, not from a physics standpoint, but how often should you do these sessions? As I mentioned, short sessions, 5 to 10 minutes, generally 2 to 3 times per week, and then grow from there. You want to adjust based on your response and device guidelines. Timing of therapy, should I do it in the morning? Should I do it in the evening? Well, depends on your body, right? Some people can have a cup of coffee and fall asleep. Some people, like me, if I have a cup of coffee, I'm up for hours. So find what works best for you. Some people find morning sessions energizing because they're getting that boost of ATP production and they're getting all the building blocks of energy. Other people prefer late night sessions or evening sessions for the relaxation aspect of it. Now, the one good thing about red light as opposed to blue light is that red light will not re-stimulate your circadian rhythm. It won't reset your circadian rhythm. So it shouldn't affect your sleep from any standpoint. A lot of these will come with a eye protection anyway, but just to be aware of that. And then, with red light therapy, you want to combine with other wellness practices as you guys are already doing inside Well 12. So integrate with a balanced diet, regular exercise, and adequate sleep to really get all the benefits of red light therapy. And risks. So overuse, we talked about. Excessive exposure may lead to diminishing returns. So, well, if one is good, two should be better, right? Think about that with tequila shots, right? Oh, well, if three are good, six must be better. It doesn't work that way, right? So there's a tipping point after which you're not getting as much benefit. And where that happens, really for each individual, really that depends on where you're starting out, right? So if you're starting out pretty healthy, you may 2 sessions may be all it takes. If you're starting out with a lot of issues, you may need 5 sessions to get to the level of health that you need. So you want to kind of be aware of how much your exposure you need, and then avoid, kind of like I said, putting yourself in a frying pan and having too much exposure. Eye protection. This is just kind of a general light thing. You don't want to stare directly into the light source for too long. As opposed to things like a laser pointer, this isn't what's called coherent light, so you're not going to really burn a hole in your retina or anything like that, like you would if you stare into a laser pointer. But you just want to protect your eyes, anything with light. So a lot of times these things, if you're buying them from a reputable source, will come with protective eyewear. Do not substitute for medical treatment. So red light therapy doesn't take the place of your medication, right? It doesn't take the place of your diabetes medicine or your blood pressure medicine or your thyroid medicine. This is meant to be a complement to therapy, not replace medical care. And as always, seek advice from your healthcare provider. Hi. And say, hey, you know what, is this something that you think might help? And honestly, a lot of the conventional docs may not be aware, but it's just one of those things that will be helpful to look at.